Welcome back, everyone. We just had that show with Rudy Rochman. It was a really fun one. Y'all go and check it out if you haven't seen it already. But here we're just going to do a chill stream. And for the first time ever, I have a guest contributor, Dr. Matthew Minard, who's going to be joining us for the chill stream. Dr. Minard, how are you?
Good. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Yeah, doing good. Good to have you on for one of these. And I see you got your drink over there. I just took the top off this Modelo, so that's what I'll be drinking. That was the only one that I could find in the fridge. So
this is a session IPA from Sierra Nevada. Sessions are always like lighter, so that we don't have, at the end, Dr. Minard had some like 10-11% beer. I'll tell you about real distinctions in the Godhead. The power. This is an easy beer.
That would be a sight to see.
It's like, it's like as long as it ends that amiable, everyone when they're drunk, they love each other, But my wife reminded me, she said, no, they don't always. Sometimes it's fisticuffs.
That's true.
I'd ask you,
very true.
In the spirit of banter, just trying to turn my office lights on here. In the spirit of banter, I'd say, weather's hot around here. What's it like where you're at? But you live in the hot inferno.
Yeah, it's always hot here. I didn't look at the temperature, but I mean it's definitely hot. And I still gotta. They're working on R&T right now. When they're done for the evening, I still need to go in there. I'm thinking about putting down some spacers where the garage door bays are, because there's a little water that leaks through there. So I'm going to go out there, even though it's still hot. I'm going to try to get it done because I want to lay the flooring down, but it's a kind of flooring that it's not waterproof. So I need to put something down there. So I'm just going to deal with the heat and go out there and do that in a little bit.
Well, there are very few floorings that can deal with it unless it's like linoleum or something that's like right on top of the slab. So,
right. Yeah. And it looks like Mauricio is wanting a book recommendation from you. Do you happen to have one?
Yeah, well, I see he's saying not only book recommendation, but it's like book tour.
He wants a tour.
Yeah. Hold on. Let's go over here. So you're going to get the experience. I had a nice young couple visited a student who they're starting at Steubenville, and they just got married young. Makes me feel old, like 22. They were coming back from Maryland. They stopped up. I said, if you're ever passing by my house, stop by. Well, the problem is they left just before we started. So
yeah,
let me move my office.
Sure.
Because when I do this with the the nice backdrop, I move my laptop. I decided I didn't want my wife ever to have God forbid, like those books back there ever fell off. Now, Mauricio, I could go over here and there's a mixture of books here, but let me give you a feel for why you miit be hesitant. If I were just to wander around in the philosophy section, I mean, there's von Hildebrandt's Trojan Horse in the City of God.
Yeah.
Definitely meandered. I would have. Let's get something that's bad here. I'd have Massimo Fagioli's Vatican II, the battle for meaning. You really want to read that, right? Yeah. So right. It's much more mixed domain. So we'll go over to the Thomist corner. Give me some guidance. I'll give you a recommendation, but give me some guidance.
Yeah, that is pretty broad, huh?
So Mauricio, do you have any guidance, or otherwise Michael, I'll make him.
Well, I'm not sure what exactly book recommendations he was looking for as far as specifics, but I'm curious. You mentioned that one, The Meaning of Vatican II. What other Vatican II books would you recommend?
What do I actually? Well, of course, everyone's you've done. Rhyme Flows in the Tiber. It's dated.
Right.
Logan.
Yeah.
Can I deflect?
Yeah.
I don't know if there are any. I don't know palatable books on Vatican II. I mean, I had
Right.
Matthew Levering's book, but it's kind of doing something thematically. So I don't know about history, right? He's not doing that. He's kind of doing something thematically on each of the main documents. So I'm going to shuffle in. Here's an interesting book. It'd be interesting for you, the stuff you do. Have you ever seen Don Butler's book on Vatican I?
No.
This is an interesting text because he was, I forget if he was Ampleforth Abbey. He's a British, a British monk. So it's based on his abbot bishop Bernard Hawthorne was at the council, and it has notes about him. You have some interesting notes that are in English. From the, you could get them out of the Manzi, but that's often hard Latin to read on debate at the council. Fascinating things about the primacy debate. It's a really interesting text, actually. It's a really interesting text. Right next to it, a book, you have to be careful because when you say Vatican II, this is like Trent, Vatican I, Vatican II, O'Malley wrote stuff. I'm sure you know O'Malley.
Oh, yeah.
Now, O'Malley's a little bit too much of a Jesuit. In some ways, I mean, he's a good historian. It's like these Jesuits are all they're more erudite than I am. But his Vatican I book is very good. I wish I had the cover still on it, but I hate dust jackets.
I do too. I can't. I always take them off. I hate
that. You open it up and it's flopping around.
Yeah. Why did they ever put that on there to begin with? Is my question.
Well, it's because otherwise you're going to have that. Even if they had the ability, let's imagine that they could do those press covers like they do for hardback books. Those are ugly.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's a cover. It's because you want to have the picture cover. So O'Malley's book on Vatican I is actually not. It's not bad as an introduction to the history behind some of the themes going on at the time of Vatican I. I use it in one of my courses, actually, because I try to make the point to people, that you need to really understand as a Byzantine, the context of Vatican I more than just the primacy stuff, right? Like I try to drill into them the intellectual environment of Europe during that period and up before it. So.
Yeah, makes sense.
I have these 3 volumes of Vatican II, but they're by Paulus Press. It's like, and what is it? Assessment and Perspectives. I mean, there are a couple of what you have is like non-crazy Jesuits who are in it, people like Latourelle. So I'm like, well, Latourelle's article in there would be interesting. I got it for like $2 at the seminary because they sell sets of books for cheap whenever priests donate them. But I can't say if it's a good set or not. So.
Here's a fun one from Colin. Are you taking on the perverted faculties argument in your upcoming moral theology book?
Yeah, so people are, for those who don't know, this deals with it's a topic regarding the issue of homosexuality. And also you actually could also say it's related to masturbation as well and contraception. Now that's me immediately though slotting myself into sins against nature. So I'm thinking like a Thomist on this. Mm-hmm. How do you deal with that's what most of that is, right? The question of perverted sexual desire faculty and homosexual attraction. The moral theology book, first of all, is written for a non-expert audience. So I get a chapter on temperance in general, and then I do have a section that's on contraception. It's primarily what I talk about. So when I deal with the question of, because it's not an expert book. So, right, you're already into the world of a set of discussions in the analytic philosophy world about, or at least the analytic theology, analytic philosophy world about homosexuality, that I don't take up for that reason. Now, I don't like that posing of the question, though. I basically, I like to say, like, you need to articulate the teleological structure of chastity and make clear procreativity as being tied up with the value that goes along with temperance in the domain of sexuality. And so whatever happens at the physical level in an off case, the human values that are involved in chaste sexuality can only be articulated in a virtuous way if open to life. So it's a different kind of reasoning. Now I'm sure you got to poke, though. I understand. This is why if I specialized in it, you have to pay attention to that literature more, because it's about how you go from the physical conditioning to the moral species. So I do get the desire there, but I only have like this much time. to even make sure that I'm faithful on it, because I'm trying to stress in the moral theology book actually the centrality of grace and and divinization. So I've got, the whole first section is like that, and then it just descends into that. And when it comes to a practical thing, you can get sins against nature are more. So sins against nature, in case any listeners are not overly familiar with the terminology, that has traditionally been attached only in the domain of chastity. I wonder sometimes if we could come up with other cases in the other virtues. But Thomas, and it's it's probably in the air at his time, makes the point that certain sins, so for him, it's going to be things around homosexual acts, bestiality, masturbation, but contraception also this applies to. They're such a character that they can't even get off the ground to talk about temperance. So whereas it's like a joke that I heard once, someone was talking about, their grandmother, they thought, I forget where I heard this, but their grandmother said, caught their grandchild masturbating. It was like, well, I wish that you were at least, having sex with a woman. Like, I'd rather you sin by fornication than do that. Okay, well, it was, the way it's posited is a little bit ridiculous, but the idea there is all things equal, technically the sin of contraception, for instance, is more profoundly problematic than simple fornication between two unmarried people. As soon as you get the issue of married people, you've got all the justice stuff that comes in as well. But so I was like, if I got to aim one thing, I'm going to aim it there, because the people who are going to be reading it are going to be more likely to want to be able to articulate the problem of contraception. So I need to do it. And then I include within it just the briefest of discussions of the other matters.
I saw one on here from AD. He says that, here it is. I've received great news from my bishop that I got accepted into seminary. Pray for me as I discern. That's awesome news.
Yeah, congratulations. And just keep yourself prayerful through seminary. Look, every program everywhere is frustrating. Like my graduate program, like I even donate. I think of Catholic U as my alma mater, so I donate to them. But they've got their issues. Like they hated the Maritain side of me, and like the Thomist schools, like the stuff that's the dearest to me, my professors didn't like, so I didn't get to do it. But don't get overly frustrated. Remember that formation was hard for like the generations before you, and as long as it's not like too crazy, just be prayerful, and take your study seriously, even your philosophy. People tend not to. It's really important to be able to articulate the mysteries in an intelligible way in a homily, and work on your homiletics. I think Michael can probably say this. If you've beaten around the Protestant world, right? So like, that people can preach in some places, Catholics. People.
Yeah. I still kind of miss preaching. I did some preaching as a Protestant, and I still miss that.
Yeah, that's probably why you do this. I feel it scratching the itch for me when I do my lectures. It scratches the itch.
This one is from Weinschel, Comedy Hour featuring Dr. Minard Wynn. Have you ever seen any of my Comedy Hour shows?
Except one, whenever there was a big to do over one of them that I'm familiar with, but
I'll take these different videos and they're usually ones that are antagonistic towards Catholicism, but then there's some that are just ridiculous, and I'll review them and give my comments on them. That's what Comedy Hour is. So that would be fun.
That would be fun. I'll look at the genre to get a feel for it.
Yeah. Let's see.
I'm allowed to say anything, right?
Huh?
I'm not going to say anything crazy, but I mean,
yeah.
I almost want to put it in private. Okay, hold on. I'm going to run this by Michael. It's just related to this.
Sure. Let's see. yeah, that's fine.
There's part of me that likes to do a comedy hour. I'm not trying to kick up dust, but like on Taylor Marshall related.
Yeah. People get so upset with me for doing. I had some people reach out. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. And then others reach out. Why are you trolling Taylor Marshall, and everything's about Taylor Marshall? And I looked back and I did in 2 months 120 videos in 2 months, and 7 of them were related to Taylor Marshall. I mean, I guess 7 is a lot, but out of 120, I don't know. To me, it's
and
not that unbalanced.
That's me scratching an itch because I probably bear some like little bitterness from my days in the trad world. So, but I just don't.
I get a lot of messages from people saying that they left the church because of some of that content, or they were prevented from entering the church because of that content. And then I get a lot of messages from people saying, one of the reasons why they've come into the church is because I offered responses to that content. And so that's the main reason why I've done it.
I want positive stuff. Exactly. Like something that's actually like just teaching the faith instead of dealing with, the constant critiques. It's like, we all know it's bad. Like, and those of us who grew up in the church, we really know it was bad. I saw a comment question there that we're going to leave it to you because you've meditated on these things more. Do you think that the building of the third temple will be an indicator of the end times? Come on, Michael.
I think that there could be some truth to that. I'm not necessarily sold on the position that it has to be an indicator of it, or that it's an essential indicator of the end times. We can look at Ezekiel 40 through 48 that talks about, once again, sacrifices being offered, and it mentions a temple that has never been built. Its dimensions don't apply to anything that it was ever built. So some speculate that is going to be a third temple, and that some are going to return to the sacrifices of the Old Testament. In fact, I had Rudy Rochman on earlier, and we briefly touched on that. Possibly that could maybe happen, and maybe Ezekiel lends itself to that. So some have speculated that that's a sign of the end times, whereas others have interpreted Ezekiel 40 through 48 as symbolic, and they would say that even though it mentions some very specific dimensions to the temple, effectively the temple that it describes is the one that is the temple that comes down from heaven in the book of Revelation, and a lot of parallels have been made between the two. How does that really answer the question about, well, in Ezekiel you have a return to the animal sacrifices? How does that apply in the new with the new temple and the new heavens and the new earth? There's some answers there. I think that you could spiritualize it. You definitely could make it historical. I mean, literal, I should say, because there's absolutely no possibility that we could ever return to the Old Testament sacrifices, literally. There's no way. That would be to go against what Hebrews 6, what the book of Hebrews is all about. And Hebrews 6 seems to indicate that that's apostasy. So yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents on it. I could see it as a sign of the end times. I could see it as not necessarily a sign of the end times, but I also don't think that it has to be that it's an essential sign of the end times. Whereas I do think that the conversion of the Jews is a sign of the second coming is nigh. I do think that is one of them. I don't know. That's my 2 cents on it.
No, I mean, I have nothing to add. I basically would say the second bit is what I would, I weigh in on.
Dr. DeClue says Jared Wick's Investigating Vatican II. So I guess that's a book that we need to check out.
Yeah, that's Dr. DeClue, and it's good to see you on here. Actually, it's been a while since we've emailed. I hope you've been well. I'm just gonna make sure I have it pulled up so that I.
Yeah, and I don't know what.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like these books sometimes. I ordered it for the library, but I don't own a copy. I had the seminary buy a copy of that. I guess, the other thing we should say too is that for Dr. DeClue's folks over Word on Fire it's a very introductory book, I would guess. But, so I wish I had a more historical one, but they have a book that recently came out.
From what I've seen from it so far, it looks really good. I have it, and I've peeked at it. Haven't had a chance to read. Yeah, so far it's good, but I haven't had a chance to read through all of it yet. So, Colin asks, have you gotten around to Gerard de Laurier, Garrigou's student who went full set at post Vatican II?
No, I haven't. I don't remember where you asked me about that, but it's like maybe do I have it written down on a piece of paper even to look into, which is just because I probably looked at it the day that either you emailed me about it or messaged me online. So no, I haven't. Let me hold on. Can you pull that back up so I make sure I have it?
Yeah.
I do want to post it. Post it. I'll
Sure.
stick on here. There's a whole interesting world of questions that sometimes is on my mind about what in the world would have happened to Gary Lagrange had he lived through.
I've wondered that as well.
There are some who they're very ready to say he would just have, he would have gone, Roger Calmel, Dominican, who basically became, an early traditionalist. He refused to say the new mass. I think it would have been a terrible cross for Garrigue. And I get a little impatient with the boomers out there who they don't even see the cross that was for some priests. Like some priests, right. Weird. There's a story my uncle tells me, and so this is me now pulling back and not being mean to the boomers. It was an older priest who was a real conservative here, typical kind of ethnic Catholic, do what the bishop said. But because he had that attitude, he went from being, strict about the old form to, okay, well, this is what I'm being told to do, and I'm just going to, not raise protest. I guess there was just a lot of priests who were like that, but there was a cross for I couldn't imagine, that level of liturgical change,
Yeah.
So no, I haven't, but it's here now on my monitor right there, and it will stay there in its spot until I finally really get to it.
Grant Michael says based Hawaiian minored.
Yeah. I want to be laid back. I didn't wear this, but I was outside digging. I have basically a pile of dirt I need to move from one place to another. So, this is nice and light after all that. So it's a little bit too, though, get these shirts. And it's like, why is there not one more button? Like, I am not a cabana boy, so I don't want to, it needs to be like there, the neck. So.
Ave Maria.
Just to answer that, we'll take that Ave Maria. Maurizio asked about it, Spanish works. I should know more Spanish Thomism. A friend of mine's always on my case about knowing the Spanish and Italian world, let alone poor South America. South America is an example of we don't even pay attention to scholasticism down there, even though it even had a vibrant little tradition, centuries ago. But so something's gonna come to my mind because it's been on my mind of if you ever wanted to, Maurizio, translate Questiones Mysticas by the mystical questions, and it's on archive.org by Juan Arentero. I'd be happy to edit that for you if you're bilingual. I think that would be an excellent thing to add to the English speaking world right now. Father Arentero is a very great spiritual theologian. The only Spanish guy I ever reference him in Latin, is Ramirez. So he's got all these, but they're in Latin. So Santiago or James, Jacob Ramirez, he's got all these. But, for instance, one wonders, Michael, you have the back fathers, those Jesuits, I would think that there has to be so much stuff there that I don't even know of, which I should, because there are a lot of those thinkers, from what my friend tells me, on certain moral questions are really close to me, like the stuff that I get out of the school. So they're inheriting stuff from late scholasticism. But if you want to do Questiones Mysticas, remember, I don't speak Spanish. I would be happy to be an editor for you, because I would know how to even a language out. I mean, I can muddle through Spanish, but so, okay. You had another question.
Grant Michael, thank you for the super chat. Dr. Minard, you rock, sir.
Well, thank you for supporting reason and theology. So they'll be better use than Hawaiian shirts. Funny. When I was in 10th grade, almost all I wore one summer was Hawaiian shirts. That's all.
Mm.
That was I guess that was an in thing though back in the 90s.
Another person who does that is Dr. Daniel Wallace.
I don't know.
Yeah, the Protestant New Testament textual scholar. Yeah,
He doesn't do.
We had him on once.
As long as he doesn't do any of these lecturing.
I don't know.
I've got a real chip on my shoulder that way. That's why I'm always a little bit overdressed, and maybe some of it's because I come from a pretty ho hum background. Maybe it's like I remember being made fun of for the clothes I wore because my family wasn't all that well to do. But like I like to look professional. I hate slob professors. No wonder no one takes you seriously because you look like you just rolled out of bed. Anyway, Ave Maria had a question.
Yeah, and somebody's saying they're talking about Patrick Coffin no longer on YouTube. I didn't know he wasn't on YouTube, but I haven't seen anything from Patrick Coffin in a long time. Well, no. I'm sorry. Patrick Coffin I have seen. I was confusing him with Patrick Madrid. I'm sorry. I haven't seen Patrick Madrid in forever. No, Patrick Coffin, I heard that he's not on YouTube anymore. I think he got banned or censored for something he said. I don't know.
Get closer and closer. You start thinking, it could happen at any time to anyone.
Yeah, that's very true. Ave Maria. How could the Jews even reinstitute the priesthood while lineages of Levi and Aaron are lost? Wouldn't that make the new priests invalid? Yeah, I think that I've heard one possible solution is that you have certain genetic markers that they claim identify the priesthood. I don't know how true that is. I've also heard, of course, people whose last name is Kohen, which means priest in Hebrew. That would be a way to identify them. I don't know. I haven't looked a whole lot into it. It's a good question though. What else we got on here? What's your take on clericalism? Well, we first need to define it, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's actually an important topic though to take up because there's a conservative, how to put this, and it's not a trad thing because it's something you see like a reflex reaction I've seen for too long. Like I'm talking 15 years, and I'll let you talk, Michael. I'm sorry. After this,
it's fine.
I think there's an attitude. It's like, the real clericalism is, ministries, right? In the Roman Church, people, lectors and whatnot. And I understand what people are getting at, right? That you're clericalizing lay folk to do things that used to be minor orders. Okay, we can talk about that, but that's like all that ever comes up. But I'll say this as a layman, I'm well aware that it's like I teach at a seminary. I got to really watch exactly what I say. I don't think, because I don't think ill of our formation, But sometimes there's an attitude that once ordination has happened, the person who is ordained really has a kind of say over almost all things. I mean, they just get deference from Catholics in a way that sometimes I say it's not necessarily proven. Like my attitude toward a lot of clerics is, shut up, don't give me a homily, even just confect the sacrament. Like really, like, you know what I mean? You've muddled through and that's all you're doing. Now I don't feel like that about every cleric, right? But I feel I almost have a knee-jerk reaction to holding a cleric up on any kind of pedestal whatsoever. And I think it happens quite naturally, even without it being, trads being trads. Because that's what people like to say clericalism is. Like I think it's actually something quite insidious. Because I think that this is, and here's where I'll toss the ball to you, Michael. I do find that Catholicism is like afraid of the implications of the universal priesthood of believers. Like I'm not, because
I agree with you.
The same way as priests sacramentally. Like I'm not saying that kind of goofy stuff. But
it's an overreaction.
Yeah.
Overreaction against Protestantism. I agree.
Yeah. And so how do you see that in the clericalism thing?
I'll give you an example. Last week, I had a priest say that none of these online, that he doesn't see the use for any of these online YouTube channels. None of them are actually converting people to Christianity and bringing them to Christ. Only priests are doing that. So literally that day, which is no different than any other day, I get messages daily about people coming to the Catholic Church because of the show that we're doing here. So I posted, screenshot from that day. And the next day, it's just, are you kidding me? That's clericalism. This idea that only a priest could really convert somebody. Nonsense. And to really disparage and speak so poorly about laity and our role and what we're doing. I felt that was an example of clericalism.
I think it gets insidiously in lots of places. That's why Pope Francis is so frustrating, right? I think it would have been useful to have someone who was willing to say that without his other iconoclastic tendencies, though.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the problem. He says it like someone who has this tape in his ear from going through seminary in the 60s, so he has kind of like clericalism just means all those old conservatives. It's like, no, it's everywhere. But I wish so the conservative can say that, but I wish conservative Catholics could see the conservative clericalism that exists. It's like someone once, I've gotten caught in the crosshairs with this. There are other reasons I could get caught in the crosshairs here, but, I was basically told, remember, my terminal degree is philosophy. But luckily philosophers have to dig around in enough. If you do medieval stuff, you do have to dig around a lot of moral theology. So that's why I cover the one intro to morals class. But like basically the claim was made, it's like a layman can't teach moral theology.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Now, let's just take that as like fully trained, appropriately credentialed. Someone who's an appropriately credentialed layman can't do it. It's like that's just a ridiculous claim.
Yeah, I don't appreciate that, and honestly, I don't think that clerics really have any position to be talking and criticizing laity at this point when it comes to our evangelization. Not that there aren't clerics out there who are priests and bishops who are evangelizing others, but it's primarily the laity who's doing it. So I kind of feel they need to get their own house in order before they start criticizing the laity.
Go work on their liturgy. Go work on running your parish.
Yeah, get your house in order, and you really wouldn't have these issues. I would have no problem with them taking more of a lead if they got their own house in order. One of the reasons why we've had to step it up is because they're not.
Yeah, like if more bishops, like a bishop, I'll just leave him unnamed that I know of, who actually takes an entire year with his seminarians before they go to seminary to make them live near him and pray lauds or whatever, morning prayer and vespers every day with him, because he's trying to inculcate into them a spirit of collegial life with their bishop in the spiritual life liturgically. It's like, go do that.
I'll be frank. My experience is that
I'm not saying not to evangelize. That's not what I'm saying about them, right? I'm saying it's not what I'm saying. So I don't want to come across as totally anti-clerical, but I'm like, you got a lot of work on stuff like that really needs to be done to be a healthy diocese.
I'll be frank. I mostly see laity evangelizing people. And it's been my experience that priests, you have to chase them around just to get them to do their own job, just to get them to give you the sacraments.
Yeah, and
which is very minimal because priests are supposed to do more than just give you the sacraments, but it's hard for them to get them to actually do just that. And I'm speaking broadly. There's always exceptions. I'm just saying in my experience, in general, I have to chase them around just to get the sacraments. How could I entrust them, or depend on them to evangelize people?
So I'm going to push. I'm not trying to be overly pushy, but I do want to make sure, there's some of your experience is Southern Catholicism because you're a little bit more of a diaspora.
Sure.
I have experienced some now I know lots of religious because I had been a monk. But I've experienced lots of cases of guys who will on a dime, whom I have not talked to for years, who, come to my dad's deathbed or to my mother's, or who have handled confessions for me, or my wife gets people that she can send to. So I have to say,
Sure. Yeah, I'm sure it's different. I can only speak about my experience.
But that's
usually I have to chase priests around just to do their job.
Yeah. And that's, some of it's just, we have so many more priests up this way than it is. You can get more that are good.
Yeah. I don't know. I was kind of offended with that criticism of the faithful to put us so low and to say things like that. It was just, to me, that's clericalism.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's, now there are, if we're focusing on that kind of clericalism, we're not trying to exclude what the normal, when people say, well, here's ways that liberal Catholics are clerical.
Right.
We're not trying to exclude that here. It's just It's
Right.
sometimes easier to poke a little bit at your own side of the house because someone has to critique within, and
Yeah.
I'm fine with being, to be slightly corrected here. That's part of the give and take of these conversations. But
Somebody mentioned earlier in the chat that Lefebvre said the new mass for 2 years, but they couldn't find the resource. I found something, not a good website, but Tradition in Action, that's quoting a letter by Gerard de Laurière
Sure.
from April 79. And it says, you celebrate, he's, I guess, referring to Lefebvre, you celebrated the innovative mass from the beginning of April 1969 until 24th December 1971. And then he goes on with a letter. So I don't know. I've never heard that was the case, but perhaps it's true.
It's an odd period in his life. I mean, I'd have to go back, got to go back to my lore, but right, he's no longer the head of the Spiritans because he basically steps down at one point. Something happened that they were going to have. He couldn't, he was the general of the order, and he could not justify whatever he would have had to have signed off on. And he was living in Rome, kind of privately. So, I don't know. Would he have, for like a couple of years privately, have been saying it?
I guess so. I also know he signed off on the documents of Vatican II, which is also an interesting point to note.
He didn't. Well, except he didn't do on Dignitatis humane, did he?
I thought he did. I thought I've seen the. Am I wrong?
No. I wish I had.
I thought I've seen it.
I'm going to make another random thing, and this is not at all because no one said this, but someone was talking about priests celebrating Maronite liturgy. This is my friendly reminder to Roman Catholics, and I mean, this is something I've had to learn, let's be honest. Always remember, when you say Eastern Catholics, there are lots of different Eastern Catholics. So, when you lump together Maronites, never lump together Maronite Catholics with Melkite Catholics. They have all of the controversy of everything in their jurisdiction because you've got two patriarchs there, and they're two very different traditions. Byzantine Eastern Catholicism is historically quite different from Maronite, just for instance.
I'm looking right now at the signature of Lefebvre. Let me share my screen real quick. On Dignitatis Humane right here. Okay.
I mean,
there it is, right here.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm Marcel Lefebvre. Declaration on Religious Liberty. And a few other documents you can see. So, yeah. I thought I had seen it a while back.
Well, wait.
Huh?
Okay, because it's an odd titling for that.
You want me to share it again?
Yeah. That would surprise
This is on Roraticelli. They usually have accurate stuff.
That's it. No, that's right, because it's right there. It's Pastoral Constitution on the Church in the Modern World.
Yeah, and right here, I'm Marcel Lefebvre, auxiliary bishop, I guess. It's kind of hard for me to read that.
Because he's going to be some titular because of him being
auxiliary titular, I guess. Is that what that is?
I guess.
It's hard for me to read that.
Yeah, I don't know. I forget where he was at because he had been also. Where had he been? Like in the Middle East, right?
I know he was in Africa for a while, but I think that was way over by the time of Vatican II, right?
Yeah, because then he was for a while over in the Middle East. And then he became the head of the. So maybe he was just a bishop up to that point, and he became an archbishop because he became a titular.
Yeah.
That I'm not sure on.
Yeah, I remember when they posted that.
I want to make sure as we jump around Ave Maria, so you feel like you have an answer of some sort. Your sentiment about metaphysics that's a good guiding sentiment. Like spot on in your sentiment about God and your ontology. So
I'm going to post one here for you, and then I'm going to step away for just 1 second. I'll be right back. Here's one from Ave Marias while we're speaking of Ave.
Oh, there you go. That's what referring to there. So, all right, well, I guess I'm by myself. It's kind of weird. I guess I do the lectures. So when talking about God, I try to frame my ontology so that it's missing there, so that God is first and nothing more fundamental than God. He is being himself, no categories contain him. Yeah, I mean, any metaphysics that's worth its weight, worth its salt, has to ultimately somehow figure out how all causality brings you back to God. I mean, any amount of addition to metaphysics that doesn't ultimately then lead to a kind of capstone of natural theology that places God ontologically first is not going to have balance in any of its other topics as well. This is why, contemporary metaphysics, which is kind of somewhat atheistical in the analytic world, is it's like tattered garments of little questions being asked. Well, that's because they don't have this synthetic idea that's actually that has that kind of like nice Platonic balance. That's what you're doing when you do this. That you have this nice Platonic sense of the chain of being, or at least the gradations of being. That so without that kind of ordering principle, everything's kind of like cut up and mashed up.
Looking through the chat here.
New Jersey's too liberal. You want to get out of this state. Well, yeah. Go to Florida. I'll go to Florida, though, you Southerners.
What's your favorite religious priestly order? You have one?
Okay, sorry. Yeah, you're going deep because it's going deep into my wounds, and also I know too much. Yeah, I'll just say in general the OSB Benedictines. I mean, I don't know enough. So I'm not close to any Trappist houses. Although let's just call Trappists Reformed Benedictines. So let's call we'll choose Trappists actually, because it's a mess. The OSBs over the years have become such a big bag. Some communities are very monastic. Some Benedictine houses are not. Yeah, on the whole, the Trappists. Much more than the active orders. I have even for all the Thomism I do, I don't have some deep devotion to like whatever Dominican spirituality is. It's even in my own spiritual life, Benedictinism has. This is probably why I felt so at home in the Byzantine world. It's bread and butter, right? It's the third one. It's bread and butter. Yeah.
Nick Mon. Why did Tim Gordon just say that Pope Francis endorsed Father James Martin? I don't know. I haven't heard of that, but I remember a while back Pope Francis, elevated him to, I forget what position it was, but he elevated him to some position having to do with the Vatican.
Yeah, he's in the communication dicastery. Look, if you're interested in finding an answer to that, there was an article I saw that came up in the New York Times on my news feed about something that Pope Francis said regarding things related to the LGBT world. And in the article, I just flipped through it before I had these guests come, where James Martin came up. So maybe he said something that's reflected in that New York Times article that then is related to this.
What is your favorite prayer?
Is it a singular prayer?
Yeah, singular.
Probably the thing that, like, if I'm like something comes, because you pray it so much in the Byzantine Church, being in liturgies, is the Heavenly King, Comforter, Spirit of Truth. That prayer just comes most readily to my lips. Now, that being said, my favorite prayer more broadly, the Psalter. Now, this is where, and because I spent so many years in a Roman Novus Ordo world, I mean, to this day, my heart is utterly moved by praying of all things. I know it's a paraphrastic translation, but the Grail Psalter. The Psalms are the great prayer book of the church. So I'm so used to, because all of our offices in the Byzantine world and our liturgies, everything starts, even the priests, that's how they're starting, is praying, Heavenly King, Comforter, Spirit of Truth, everywhere present and filling all things, treasure of blessings, giver of life, come dwell within us, cleanse us of all stains, save our souls, O gracious one. So you just get it, because any office you pray, it's on your tongue. But Psalm 37 and Psalm 73 are my two favorite Psalms, which luckily I do have I've never been diagnosed with it, but I think there's just a tad of reading confusion. I have, not dyslexic, but I have a little bit of reading confusion at times. So I used to get confused there, 37 and that. but I love both 37 and 73.
People are saying Pope Francis needs to come on R&T. He would never do it because I'd probably ask some questions that he doesn't want to answer. So
if he doesn't answer the dude, yeah, he's not coming on here.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah. That's we're not going to. Isn't that ridiculous that like it's however many days unanswered? Such simple questions. They're such simple questions.
Yeah, that's very sad. I still think that's inexcusable. That's one of my criticisms of Pope Francis. I mean, I revere his office and pray for him, but I don't think that everything has been done right. So,
Dr. Declue is right to put in there Psalm 51. I mean, that's one, like, especially in the older liturgies, both East and West, you'd do Psalm 51 all the time. And
right.
Probably if I didn't have the experience I had at St. Vincent where I prayed 37 and 73 in my vexation with my former superior, so it like got deep into my heart. But yeah, I mean, of course, the Miserere is a psalm that should leap to one's lip.
Catholic Ben Shapiro says, invite Pope Michael of Kansas. Ben Shapiro, you're out of the loop. I already reached out to him about a year ago and asked him to come on the show to explain why he believes he's the Pope. And he just asked more questions about the show, but he never gave me an answer. So I guess what it is he couldn't take me seriously.
I mean,
to come on my show.
I'd be interested in you getting, but I don't know what can of worms I'm opening up by saying this because I don't understand these people. The Byzantine Catholic Patriarch. Have you ever run across this?
Yes.
Who is he? I
know, right?
Because, with us being in the seminary, we get these group emails from this guy.
Thinking y'all are affiliated with them.
Well, yeah, or like you'd be interested in, like, you have what is it? It doesn't even mean anything. There is no patriarchate associated
other than he anathematized Pope Francis?
Yes.
That was pretty weird.
During the election, we were getting tons of stuff.
Michael A says, I haven't heard of Pope Michael from Kansas. They did a documentary on him.
Yeah, because I found him. Maybe it was you actually who brought him up. Actually, at one point in our talks backstage, it's like, I looked him up.
It was interesting. I mean, I was fascinated when I watched that documentary. This is the most fascinating thing. I mean, I'd love to talk to him, but like I said, I guess he just can't take me seriously enough. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, well, there's a certain mystique that whatever little community that he's set up his tiny little church within.
Well, to my knowledge, the only follower that he has is his mother, who lives with him. Of course, I don't know anybody who actually follows him. No, I don't know. He says he has followers all over the world, but
Michael's probably better.
Yeah.
Time, yeah.
Let's see what else we're showing in here. Thoughts on the metaphysics of gender?
Well, yeah, isn't that part of the whole mess? I was thinking about this today when I was listening to a podcast. Isn't it funny how effectively, what the whole solution to like so much of this stuff would be is there's malleability in gender roles, right? Because around the nucleus of sexuality, we have culture, and it's in the order of intentional and moral being. It's in cognitional being that we create the structures of culture and how the sexes relate to each other, and that set of relations by which they constitute their moral cultural means of expressing themselves is what gender is, right? I mean, it flowers. There's not a hard distinction between the two. It flowers from the biology. But just to say it's so much easier or so much more sane to say the issue is you need more malleability, right? You need to be able to live what's considered still a feminine life, even if you're like one of these, whatever. I mean, I was just thinking like someone on these nature shows. He's like, you're gonna go and you're never gonna get married, and you're gonna go around and work with the gorillas in the hills. I mean, I'm just picking that as something that seems to be different than like the stereotyped, which has its own problems. Nuclear family American woman of the 1950s, right? I mean, it had its issues. Actually, first wave feminism was reacting to the the fact that people didn't quite know what to do with their identity as soon as they had extra time because of technology, right? Now, because it immediately went down terrible routes. But I often think of it, it's like, yeah, you know why you have 54 genders or whatever that you've laid out? It's because, I mean, the whole world of the cultural institution you're trying to find names for, it's, if you absolutize this, you can absolutize this into like 8,000 genders if you want. Because what you're really just trying to say is let people live as women, women and men in different ways. That doesn't have to go so far as the LGBT stuff is going nowadays. I mean, I'm generally of the opinion that in personal interactions, you should be very, you should be actually as sensitive and kind as you can be, because in most cases, you're not in a place to do anything more than that, right? It doesn't mean you have to show some kind of absolute acceptance, but you have to try and figure out how to pave your way forward. But yeah, that's all it is. I mean, that's all it is, though. If you have a good doctrine of intentional existence. I mean, I don't know your thought on this stuff. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about it because
I don't either.
I keep it away. I keep it like the propaganda from my family. And then otherwise, I think it's this social contagion that we've got to watch because it's pretty powerful, but that's about it.
Yeah. Nick Monk, I have a Bible question. Does 1 Corinthians 11:19 mean that our divisions and heresies are a beneficial thing? Would be nice. If you go to the text, it's of course St. Paul saying, no doubt there have to be differences among you to show which of you have God's approval. It doesn't necessarily mean schisms and heresies, but I suppose you might be able to include those things. But I don't know. I think this might be referring more to kind of somewhat like that distinction between God's antecedent and consequent will. I mean, in one sense, there shouldn't be any divisions, which Scripture also notes. But in another sense, since there are going to be divisions, there are some benefits that come from it. You know where the heretics are. You know where the people who don't accept the truth are. They're more conspicuous. I don't know. That's my 2 cents on it. I don't know if you have it.
What is the verse number there?
1 Corinthians 11:19.
Oh yeah. And I really have to even pull Greek up in front of me. For in the first place, when you assemble in church, I hear there are divisions among you, and I partly believe it. For there must be factions among you, in order that those who are genuine among you may be recognized. Yeah, I mean, I would probably do something like antecedent and consequent will on that. It's not that there need to be divisions in order for. I mean, because that's in the analogy of faith. There's nothing else that's gonna sanction that reading.
Spiridon, what kind of workouts happen in the workout room mentioned on the last show stream? Well, when my equipment is not in there, I have a couple treadmills in there that I'll use for cardio, and then bench press, and then dumbbells that I'll do for military presses, shoulder presses, curls, leg extensions, leg curls, and then one of those, the kind of the large workout balls that you can lay on and do sit-ups on. And so I got some stuff in there like that. But right now it is hard to really get in there because all of the equipment is in there. So
in one corner.
I tried to put it all in one corner, but there's just so much of it that, I had to start expanding out. And so, yeah. I did not realize how much stuff I had in there until I had to carry it all inside and in the garage. Then I realized, wow, I've accumulated a lot of stuff in here.
None of it's easy to carry.
Yeah, that was pretty exhausting because I cleared out all 900 square feet. And believe me, I use every square foot. I cleared it out all in one morning. I was exhausted.
Is it in a section of the building that you do the broadcasting from?
Say it again.
Where is it at? Is it in a section of the?
Well, the shop. What it was is they took that mechanic. It had a mechanic shop, and I turned it into the studio and all that.
Yeah,
it was 900 square feet, and it's full of just stuff in there. Not only the production stuff, but I have about 4 office desks and workstations.
Oh, okay. So you're talking about the stuff that was in there. I thought you were talking about
everything,
stuff.
All of the books, all of the equipment, I have a work area that's for audio and video production. I have a work area that's for my day job. I have another work area that's for me working on graphics and writing for R&T and things like that. So I have a bunch of stuff, but I had to move it all out.
Well, yeah, 900 square feet. If it's full, it would be. I mean, this is
full.
For 350.
It's full.
Square foot office. And it would,
It's full. But I might get rid of just a few things when I put everything back in there. I was looking at it today. He's done drywalling it. Now he's putting the sheetrock on it. And he put 2 windows in there because I didn't have any windows in there before. It was just 2 garage door bays, the large garage bays, and then the 2 main doors. Well, I had him put 2 windows in there between the garage bay doors and the main doors. And he's got to do I guess the border or outline for the window. You
mean like the framing for the window?
Yeah, the frame for the window, I guess is. And so still has to do that. But then when that's done, I need to fix a leak and then lay down the floor. And that will take a little while as well.
Are you doing the floor?
Huh? I might do the floor or I might hire somebody. I'm still deliberating on that one because I've never done it before, but I've watched a lot of YouTube videos. I think I could do it, but it's a lot of work, so I don't know.
What are you doing? What is it?
It's laminate.
Oh,
yeah. But I do the trim and everything as well. Yeah. I don't know. It would be my first time doing it, and it's not
It's always good to do a new hump.
Yeah, I might, and so but I need to fix a leak in there, because some of the rainwater will come through those garage door bays. So I need to put something down to prevent that. And this is all phase 1. When I'm done with all that, I can put everything in there, continue to do my shows. And in a few months, I'm going to come back and do a drop ceiling, and then put in a wall dividing the main, basically dividing the room into 2. One will be just a production studio area. The other part will be an office, but that will be kind of 1/3 of it. There will be a wall cutting that half off as well. And that would just kind of be a lounge reception area. And so I'll have an office area, a production area, and a lounge area. That's going to be phase 2. So it'll be a while before we do that though.
You should do all the wall framing for that. Learn to do that.
I don't know. I'd have to put, I've never done anything like that before. I'd have to build the frame for the wall, drywall it, and do all of that. And I've never done it before. And I've never done a drop ceiling or anything like that. And I'm probably going to do ceiling tiles.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's
a lot.
They learn it. The thing with that is because you have to be so square and so level.
Yeah,
that's tough stuff.
Yeah, I'm
doing for just a stone patio in the back. It's like leveling and making sure it's all level. Oh, over a space with twine. It's like, it's hard to do. Someone asked about. I don't have an answer. I'd be curious if Dr. DeClue's on. I wonder if he would know. I don't know any good history books that deal with Catholicism in America in the 16th or 17th, 18th century. Right, the religious orders, because I'd go through some of the stuff I know from St. Vincent's founding in the 19th century. But I don't know anything about the history of early Catholicism in America.
I have a book on him. I'm drawing a blank on who the author is. Man, I wish I could recall. I could see the picture of it in my mind. And I couldn't go and find it right now because I don't know where the books are. We literally just took them and just threw them out in the garage. I don't know where they are. So.
It's all a bunch of, well, it's not. Actually, it's probably unfair because you probably have French stuff. Because I tend to project the 18th century all the Irish.
Yeah,
I'm very anti that. What is your background? Did you? Because I don't know if you want to.
Me, I'm a mutt. I'm a mix of everything. It seems. In fact, I did my genetic, markers through Ancestry.com, and so it seems that I'm, a large part is from UK, Western Europe, and a little of the Netherlands, and a little of France, and a little from Italy. So all of that area is effectively what I'm made up of. So. But the majority of the markers I noticed were coming from England, you know.
Lofton sounds like an English.
Yeah. The dwellers of the loft house is what Lofton means. And I found the coat of arms and everything. So yeah, it's an English name, British name, I guess.
I forget. Well, Minard, we all know what that means. It's a boring German name. But I forget what Juriga, my Slavic name, means. I had to laugh though because there was a side of on my Slovak side where they were real snobby. They thought there was a family legend about how like there was some seamstress in the Habsburg dynasty that had a love tryst with one of her relatives. And my grandfather was so funny. He after my grandmother died, and they had a very good relationship. He said, uppity hunkies are the worst. That they were being uppity Slavs. Well, their last name though is Hudak, which just means something like peasant.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I just find it funny. I'm like the snob Hudaks were just their name.
They're peasants. I found that I have a knight in my genealogy because I tried to do my best to kind of trace it on Ancestry.com, and I found a Sir something of whatever. He was from the 1400s. That's as far back as I could go.
As long as it's not Brave Sir Robin.
No, it wasn't. I forget his name, but it was Sir something of whatever,
Where were family from in here then? Where'd they come over? Where were they first settled?
I from what I recall my grandmother telling me, her grandmother came from Italy, and then I know that we had some who came from France. And that's about as much as I know.
Oh, so you don't know where your original roots were in the area?
No, I don't really know a whole lot. But I've done my best to try to figure it out on Ancestry.com. So
yeah, I guess we were later. Whenever you're early 1900s. I mean, on my grandmother's side does. My grandmother on my father's side, they do go back into the hills. Scots Irish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What I could tell is a lot of the people from the UK came to the Mississippi and Louisiana area. So I it seems that's effectively where I'm from.
Yeah. So then you're in your home area there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I look at mine that way as being we're just a mixture of we're all the cast offs. Scots Irish, Slovaks were being used for their cheap labor. They were just so it's all it's fine. It's good. But it's so your experience though then of Catholicism is so different. Because I grew up with
there's no Catholics here. It's mostly Baptists and Pentecostals. I'm in a dead zone. It's a dead area. If you look on the map, everything good is about 4 hours away. I'm in this bubble of just a dead zone. It is really frustrating because you basically have to be a desert father if you want to be a Catholic out here where I'm at.
I know. I remember it was the last vocation at my church I grew up in was a guy who was I think he'd been a Trappist actually, and his monastery closed. And he came and filled in. It was the first time I realized we had a priest who came from our parish, old man, and we were talking after mass, and he said he was down south, and he said, I see my life as being a kind of missionary, even though I'm just a diocesan priest because his monastery had closed and he just incarnated. So yeah, that's good. It's good to have a sense for you said to be a desert father if you can be comfortable with that.
I don't have a choice, so I just have to do what I have to do. I have zero choice. So
someone said here, I thought there were lots of Catholics in New Orleans. Yeah, but
it's 4 hours away. That's 4 hour drive. I mean, like I said, everything is a bubble of 4 hours or more. Dallas, Houston, New Orleans, all of that is 4 or 5 hours away from where I'm at. So I'm in the worst possible place that you could be if you want to be Catholic. I'm in a great place if you want to be Baptist or charismatic, though.
That's true. Yeah, or if you want to have the crocodiles and alligators.
I've seen quite a few crocodiles before in our swamps. We have swamps and bayous, and I've seen some before. Let's see. Somebody said that's why you got to get the R&T on local TV. Yep, still working on that. I definitely want to evangelize the local people here. Shreveport has decent parishes, but they are 3 hours away. Yeah, the Diocese of Shreveport. I mean, everything is a lot of driving distance for me.
One of my dearest, dear priest to my heart, Benedictine. He was from Shreveport. Yeah, he was.
Really?
I think
Shreveport's an hour and a half away from me. So
yeah,
and then they have a Latin mass there, but it's once a month. So that does me no good.
Just like create your entire life around it. Basically.
Drive an hour and a half for 1 month.
Yeah,
I did find another low mass an hour and a half away before. I mean, it's a low mass.
Low mass. I've never. That never was. I mean, I understand.
Yeah.
I'm not going to come into my wife. It's prayerful for her. It's not for me. I'll take.
I agree. It's not for me as well. I'll take a high mass or an Eastern liturgy, but the low mass is not very prayerful for me. Yeah. I'm not putting them down. I mean, they're fine. I would take the low mass over a local Novus Ordo, but for an hour and a half to drive for that, I mean, 3 hours total. Yeah. I did it for a while. I did that driving an hour and a half every Saturday for quite a while. But yeah. Maybe one day things will change. I highly doubt it, though.
The world's gonna get darker before it's lighter. When I was, what's hopeful though, we don't have to be totally negative. The one thing that's wonderful is as long as when it comes to just knowledge, right? I mean, we should be worried about salvation of souls and the life of grace, and that's preeminent. How is that going to survive through this? And we shouldn't wish for a dark time because it imperils that. But one brilliant thing is no matter how corrupt the world gets, all it takes is one copy of something that's good to reignite the fire of that, whatever that was from the tradition, from the broad Western canon,
Right.
So that's why, that's got to just keep, I think we're in an era to conserve. Like we just have to try and, a bunch of us have to try and conserve the stuff as the world falls apart around us.
Here's an interesting one. Thoughts on people who claim that geocentrism is a dogmatic fact. What do you think about that?
I don't have much patience for it. I really don't. I'm like, I just, because I've had people go down my throat about how the consensus of the fathers on this and other things related to cosmology tied to Genesis. I'm dumbfounded by it.
Somebody said,
but really that's it. Like that kind of stuff. It wasn't just that. Like I felt at home. I really feel at home in the Ruthenian world, which is weird because we're not the biggest Byzantine church, but I feel at home there. But that being said, that kind of stuff drove me away from Latin traditionalism. I'm like, oh my gosh, people just justify this. I don't get why that's considered part of the deposit of faith. I really have a hard time. Like I can't wrap my head around it, except a kind of anti-modernism, which I'm not a modernist. So what do you think, Michael? What do you got to say?
I'm not seeing it. Dr. Singenis was supposed to send me some material showing me why he believes that it has been definitively taught. I do recall him saying that he believes Scripture explicitly teaches it. So I could see him maybe arguing that upon those grounds.
But this is an example of something. You get into a world where you have definitive teachings on things that don't seem to be. Truth be told, I mean, if you look at the elan of what's actually important in Revelation, like you read the Bible as a whole, it's like these kinds of truths are not the ones that are trying to be communicated. Like that's the sense, right? Like if you read with blinders just certain cosmological things in texts, you're gonna think that the cosmology is important. But whenever you look at even just the whole Old Testament, like you're seeing that it's this unfolding narrative that's leading to the full inbreaking of the life of the Trinity in the incarnation. And like in the end, that's my way of saying circumlocutiously that it's not a faith and morals question. And I'm sure you can find lots of statements where it was taken for granted, but there's such an anti-science bias to that blows my mind. Like I don't trust experts on a lot of things because expertise is overrated a lot. But uh, do you realize like how much of the edifice of rational demonstration you have to tear away in order to hold that?
That's my biggest concern. So yeah.
Yeah, and I guess because and I don't have as much of I don't have a fideist bone in me. I mean, if anything, my risk is I'm glad I was born when I was. I'd become a French philosophe. You know, I mean, I'm not, but like that would be my sin. And there's a kind of like dilettante arrogance that would lead me to that. So I don't know. I don't want to get too close there because I feel like I lost my temper whenever we had that Syngenis thing. Only a little bit, but.
I'm going to play our 10 signs you might be a liberal. Give me a chance to step away for just a moment. And Dr. Minard, I don't think you've seen it before, so
go ahead, I'll watch
give you a chance to.
I feel like after Vatican II, we opened the windows of the church to a new springtime or something.
I like Jesus a lot, but not the Bible version of Jesus. I like my version of Jesus much better.
I feel like papal encyclicals are longer these days because we know so much more than the church did before. Does that make sense?
I can't seem to wrap my hand around objective morality. It's not how God works, and I can prove it. Because why would I feel a certain way or have certain desires if I can't act out on them?
Technically, Father James Martin is not a heretic.
I feel like we clearly have a much better understanding of morality today than the saints of the past. I mean, if you think about it, it's not like any of them had to deal with plagues, adultery, divorce, or justice. None of these things really existed until after 1962.
No, it's just that holding hands during the Our Father is the greatest sign in the liturgy that we're one body.
Every year I engage in the Laudato Si version Stations of the Cross. I'm such a Pope Francis Catholic. He's like Saint Francis, but holier.
I kind of feel like Laudato Si should be used instead of the creed during the liturgy.
I beg your pardon? Magisterial authority? I don't know how any of that works. All I know is whoever said it last is what I'm going to stick with. So if the Pope gives his opinion to someone over lunch and that person leaks it to the press, I'm bound to accept it as a Catholic. No questions asked.
My favorite number 5 because it's so quick.
Which one was that?
James Martin. Just
technically, he's not a heretic. It's all done in good fun.
Your house is filled with like mirrors everywhere.
Huh? That was at my previous place, the apartment. Yeah, I had a couple mirrors in there.
It makes me think of like Southern people with like kind of a French culture, like
I guess, yeah. I don't know. I like antiques, but I kind of have them spread out here. That was a lot smaller place, which was part of the problem. I was crammed. Now I got 3,500 square feet to fill, so I have plenty of space to spread it all out. Yeah.
Although someone here, Mark, the other one that's good is near the end. Laudato Si replacing the creed.
Wouldn't that be something?
I don't agree with him actually. On this. I mean, we agree very broadly on many things. So if he happens to be watching this, he doesn't usually. But he's like, we could basically let's stop with Catholic social teaching because it tends. Because of how it just tends to be like mouthing whatever is like very present. It's like, let's just stop with it. I'm like, well, make them very short. Those are real. Have you ever heard about the process with that? It goes through the pontifical whatever for for society. I mean, it's a meat grinder document. Working together encyclicals. It's like a committee document.
Yeah. No, I haven't heard about that.
Yeah, like you can tell when you read them too. I mean, because they're very concerned about a certain continuity of style and then connecting to the other things. It's really, yeah. I don't know. They're just, I mean, there's too much like political philosophy and political prudence mixed in with print.
I haven't read most of those documents, so I don't know. They don't really pertain to me. If it ever is necessary, I'll read them. But let's see here. Well, we already answered that one. Never mind. I don't know why it's coming up again. I think my question got eaten. Free grace theologian Faust. I was reading him last night. Amazed. He's teaching Protestant purgatory. Is he? I don't know. Never read him.
I don't know. I was just going to leave that to you because you're Mr. Ecumenical.
I have not heard of him offhand. Grant Michael, a man online told me the Bible is the mark of the beast. Grant Michael, you're in for a lot of fun. Go and watch my comedy hours where I reviewed the Protestant group that claims the Bible is the mark of the beast. It will be really, really enjoyable. You'll like it. Yeah, they claimed that the Bible is the mark of the beast. On one occasion, he claimed, I made a highlight clip out of it because the guy who's promoting this idea that the Bible is the mark of the beast, he claims that different spirits come to him at night, right? And some of these, are spirits of humans who died, but they don't know that they're dead. So his advice to them to help them find out and realize that they're dead is that they are to place their hand on a Bible. And if their hand goes through the Bible, you know you're dead. And I said, wait, 1 second. Let me get this straight. If your hand can go through a Bible because you're dead, wouldn't your legs go through the ground that you're standing on? Whenever you walk up and present yourself to this guy to find out that you're dead, wouldn't you fall through the ground?
You should already be like flying through the universe.
You'd be flying in the universe. I mean, how is it that you're standing on the ground? I'm just curious how this works.
Oh, these are the things like I don't even know that this fun stuff exists.
It does. And so I'll review some of it just for fun for comedy hour. And we'll watch it. And I'll play the videos. And yeah, we'll, interesting. Nice. Okay. And we'll go over it. And I'll give my 2 cents on them. So
and you will then have taken whoever you're watching more seriously than anyone who actually
I've thought of that. He has a lot of followers though. A lot of followers. Yeah, it's.
I mean, truth be told, it's like, in some ways, it's like at least because are you Protestant? Wait, is it Protestant?
Yes and no. I mean, he's against Protestantism. What it is he's against anything that actually supports the Bible itself, like a tangible Bible. He believes because this Holy Spirit speaks to you directly, the Bible itself is the mark of the beast. That's how Satan uses to trick you by writing it all down into a book and then deceiving people. The true people have the Holy Spirit of God and the indwelling of the Spirit, so they don't need a physical Bible. And he'll use the Bible to prove his position.
Well, I was going to say, there's this kind of like cyclical thing even there at the beginning, right? It's like
quote scripture and use the Bible.
The mark of the beast is a great. You see what I mean? Like,
and he will use scripture to back up his position. Correct.
Didn't they give the mark of the beast to trick you? And then you just get in this endless loop that you're just going around.
And so that's what we did. Is I reviewed in 2 different episodes. The Bible is the mark of the beast group. They're a very interesting bunch, to say the least. Let's see. Looking through the chat here.
Let me ask you something. I see there's going on or whatever. Like they're talking about King James version. What do you think of the Douay Rheims translation?
Of what?
The Douay Rheims translation.
The Douay Rheims. Yeah. I mean, as far as manuscript or just people's use of it, using it today?
a lot of people. I mean, people can. I mean, but like for your own approach to text.
You know what? I kind of like it, but I actually like the original Douay-Rheims. The one was it 1589 for the Old Testament, 1610 for the New. The reason why I like that one is because it has an incredible amount of patristic resources in the margins, so commentary from the church fathers, an incredible amount. And in subsequent editions they trimmed out more and more and more to the point that you don't really have any of that now. And so the only reason why I really like the Douay-Rheims is because of those,
yeah. I mean, from the perspective, I mean, but you don't live in a trad world, so you don't run across it as much. Like, it drives me mad when people talk about its beauty. I find it a heavily Latinate and clunky translation.
Yeah, it is that for sure. I don't think it's necessarily the best as far as manuscript witness or the way it reads, but I'm not opposed to anybody who uses it. I mean, it's perfectly fine, even if that's what you prefer, whatever.
Based on the Old Vulgate, which has decent manuscript. You know, it's not perfect, but it's very good in some ways because there's stuff.
Some value to it, sure. There's some value to it, absolutely.
And it's also for the Latin Church. I mean, it's what their liturgy grew up around, effectively. Right. It's because it's reflecting the Old Vulgate so well.
Right.
So that's all very, very well upon. It just drives me mad when people talk about the beauty of it. I'm like, that part.
It reminds me of the King James onlyists.
It's like a not as.
I don't find KJV beautiful.
Oh, yeah, and I noticed it's not as beautiful. I mean, I find it to be it's anachronistic. But
it's very anachronistic. I don't find it beautiful. I don't, I don't have a problem with somebody using the KJV.
It could be that people they're attached to that translation.
Yeah. But I never had that upbringing with the KJV, that nostalgic, I never had that. So I never had that attachment to any of these.
Like if you have an older English in your ear, you're going to hear stuff because of the phraseology that we picked up from that. But
let's see what else I'm seeing in here. Let's see, Didache Study Bible. Yeah, I like the Didache Study Bible. It's all right. I mean, what it is it's mostly a whole bunch of commentary from the Catechism of the Catholic Church. It's all right. I like the Ignatius Catholic Study Bible. I mean, all of these study Bibles, they're not going to really be anything in depth. It's going to be mostly popular apologetics. But as far as study Bibles go, and Catholic ones, I like the Ignatius Study Bible, but they haven't completed the Old Testament. So that's the unfortunate part. And I'm more of an Old Testament guy.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go to commentaries, people are focusing mostly on the New Testament. So it's difficult for me because I want commentary on the Old Testament because I like typology and allegory.
Mm-hmm.
And the Old Testament is the best place for that. So it's unfortunate they haven't finished the Old Testament yet. So that's my only critique of Ignatius Study Bible. And even when they finish it, I don't know how they're going to get it into one volume. The New Testament alone is like that.
Yeah. So. Well, they'll do thinner paper. That Ignatius published version of it. You're saying Ignatius Study Bible. I think of that because it's tied up with stuff that used to be at the St. Paul Center.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's thick paper. So they'll just need much thinner paper,
Yeah. Somebody says, I can't believe Michael's anti-KJV. What's up with that? Well, I wouldn't say I'm anti-KJV. I'm just saying I don't have any particular attachment to it. I don't see it as anything that I'd prefer if I had a choice on what I'm going to read. So I guess Revised Standard Version, Second Catholic Edition. I guess that would be kind of my go-to.
Yeah, that's what I have this little one. I had it from the time I was a monk because it fit in my pocket. So these big pockets. It's like this big. I mean, it's so tiny. My eyes get worse. It's harder and harder to read.
Yeah, somebody saying I've heard the Old Testament is coming out for the Ignatius Catholic Study Bible. Yeah, that's what they've been saying for over 10 years. So, yeah.
There have been work. There are these individual folios, but yeah.
They have individuals, but they said the Old Testament was supposed to have been completed a long time ago.
Now they say it because I do think the St. Paul Center people, Scott Hahn's people, are involved with it.
Yes, they are. It's Curtis Mitch and Scott Hahn. Yeah, so it's great stuff. But I'm wanting them to finish it because I want this thing.
I was out there 2 years ago, and I swore that I remember them being like, it's in this binder and it needs to get into this other, into something digital. Like that, it was almost done then. You know, it's
why are we still waiting? I want this thing. I'm tired of waiting. Let's see. Scrolling through here. Thoughts on Bishop Barron's Word on Fire Bible. I haven't read the Word on Fire Bible. I don't know.
This kind of stuff. It's becoming harder for me to stomach. It's very very well produced, but there's a kind of like Latin Catholic focus that I actually get a little bit of that. And he's being evangelical, so it's actually hard for me to read stuff like that sometimes. Like I haven't up till this point been like, why don't you talk about the Easterners? But like, I don't know. I've been worn out. Garrigou actually wore me out a little bit, talking about the one Roman Catholic Church. Then when I see this kind of like, ultimately Latinate approach to things, I'm like, I get it. I'm a scholastic. Like, I get it. That's what I do. But I don't know. I grew up, if you lived in Chicago like you did, or if you grew up in like what area I did, you should be very sensitive to that.
101 Caliber asks, does anyone have the Ancient Christian Commentary on Scripture set? I have the full thing on PDF and maybe about 10 volumes in hardback. It's good. What do you think?
I don't actually know of it. Is it something you have on Logos or Verbum, I should say?
No, I mean, I just have them in actual PDFs and then about 10 of them in hardback. And so I don't have the full thing in print, but I have them all on PDF. But I don't like PDFs. I have a really large library on PDFs, and I almost never look at them.
I'm like that too. I know. I was Zigliara's one of the scholastics from the 19th century. I was like, I thought I found a good deal in his books. I want that, not the PDF. And then the seller had already sold it.
I might even have something on PDF, but I refuse to read it, so I'll go and buy an actual hard copy.
Hold on. Our conversation last week, Michael, or last night, or 2 nights ago.
Yeah.
Yes. Why did I do this, guy? Carmelites. Whenever I had the PDFs.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of them. There's just something about having an actual book in your hands. I don't know. What made you Eastern Catholic?
I felt immediately at home. Well, so I was in the Roman trad world, but I never felt at home for multiple cultural reasons. And I experienced two sides of Roman traditionalism. I experienced Washington, D.C. crowd, which is actually kind of has a high society feel. And then I experienced here in Western PA, the parish that would have been in the diocese that I was in when I was a Roman Catholic had that very Midwestern-y feel that you have in a lot of like what trads are like, because they've had their formation houses in the Midwest here in the United States. So culturally, I never felt like I fit in. I never have felt at home at the traditional Latin Mass. And yet I'm actually pretty dogmatic there. I actually, in the Western Church, I'm very much pro that for the Western Church. But I never felt at home. And I went down to the local parish, and luckily my pastor at the Ruthenian parish he's faithful and he's comfortable in his skin as a Catholic. And so, like, he's the only person I ever heard on 4th of July. My wife and I were the only people there 4 years ago. And he preaches homilies if it's one person. And he preached against Americanism on the 4th of July. Not like, but it wasn't like odd. It was just it was genuine. But anyway, I walked in and I felt right at home in the liturgy. It was probably a mixture of, some of the culturally Slavic stuff that is in the like liturgical form and the music and whatnot that I liked. Bits of it's a bread and butter spirituality. Like, you just have to admit that. In the Byzantine East, it's liturgy and scripture. That's it. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like, I get it. Like, I'm not being negative. It's you just have this experience. So I'm not being dismissive here, but we come across like this to Westerners. And I think it is kind of perplexing. It's like, okay, well, what devotions do you have? We're like, we got the Jesus prayer. It's like, okay, well, what else? We got the Jesus prayer. It's like, okay, or an acathist, right? But then you're already getting into the world of quasi paraliturgical stuff. That's fine for me. I always felt overwhelmed in the Roman Church with like what the Roman Church had to develop because of its long history in multiple cultures. I never, like, so for instance, as as a Roman Catholic, I never had a devotion to the Sacred Heart. And so
Yeah.
my wife is Roman Catholic. And so I had this old Byzantine prayer book, and I found a Malaban to the Sacred Heart. I said, I was like, yeah, it's like me. I was like, let's pray this. I'll pray this with you on your feast today. And then I said to her afterwards, I said, I forgot why I never had a devotion to this. I just never, just the character of it was not mine. But yeah, I just felt at home. And as soon as I felt at home, I thought, oh, this is so nice, with the vexation and bitterness I have.
I agree. I mean, I'm not putting down those devotions if somebody has them, but it's never been a big thing for me. I'm more Eastern, but excuse me, as far as theology, I'm definitely much more Latin, like you.
Yeah, and that's the same thing. I mean, that's the same thing for me, because I think that I think Easterners need to admit they there are things that are underappreciated, but modern, there's just not as much. I mean, it's not as developed.
Yeah.
It's always aping at something else. So even whenever it's trying to not be Latin, it's just aping at some Protestant form or some, just regular form that's going on in the broader academic world today. That's my cross, is that I know that my students know that I'm devoted to forming them in the faith, but I think that they do look at me as a interloper sometimes.
Somebody was saying just a moment ago in the chat that Dr. DeClue has some videos on the SSPX. I need to watch those. I saw his videos on Vatican II, really good. I haven't seen the ones on SSPX, so y'all might want to go check those out. Have you seen them?
No, I haven't. Definitely, I'll have to go check them out too.
I want to check that out. Somebody's asking, would you be in favor of getting rid of the Anglican use and bringing back the Psalm liturgy? I'm not in favor of getting rid of the Anglican use, no, but reviving the Psalm, right? Although I know there have been a few celebrated here and there. Yeah, absolutely. I'm definitely in favor of that. But yeah, the Anglican use itself, I'm not opposed to the use of it. I wish I had an ordinariate parish. I mean, technically, I'm a member of the ordinariate, but I don't have any ordinariate parishes. I just got to go to the regular Latin Rite parishes here.
Yeah, I'd say because that's already starting to get its own organic development. It should stick around.
Yeah. Which I like it. I appreciate it. I think it's good. I don't think it should be suppressed by any means.
Yeah, that's a real danger. It's like anytime you hear that, boy, you get the willies. It's like when I don't know if you've ever heard this. I heard some Melkites talking about taking their form much closer back to the old Jerusalem form. Like, I understand there are many accretions. There are many things that have been added on. Don't do that to yourself. Don't do that to yourself. I saw it happen in another jurisdiction. But I would be a big supporter. Yeah, I'd be a supporter. It's a shame that all these other liturgies went away. I think that the Roman is the Roman Ritization of the Latin Church is one of the reasons that certain things harden liturgically, I think.
Somebody said Michael should do IRL streaming. Take us with on the Burger King. I don't know what IRL streaming is. What is that? This is new to me. IRL streaming. Somebody says come to the cathedral in Houston. I've seen it before. I've been there several times. Yeah. Is that the? No, I'm thinking. Yeah, isn't that the co-cathedral? Yeah, that's a co-cathedral. I've been there a couple times if I'm thinking of the right one. I was there for Monsignor Steenson's installation when he first was made the ordinary of the ordinariate here for the United States. So that was my first time there, and then I went and visited again when I was in Houston about a year or so ago. But yeah, that's also about 5-hour drive, so it's a while. Okay, so Lewis is saying it means he wants you to do a show where you're just walking down the street talking to people.
Sure.
That would be fun. No telling what you would see on that one.
Oh,
By the way, we don't have streets to walk down here. Just so you know, Lewis, there are no streets to walk down where I live. You have to have a car if you want to get somewhere. There's no sidewalks. There's no bicycle lanes. People don't do that here. You drive. R&T gaming night. That would be interesting. I don't know how I would set that up, but Peter Wolf says no, the Cathedral of Our Lady of Walsingham. Yeah, I've been to it. I was there. I met Dwight Longenecker there, and a few others. I was there one time. Yeah, I think y'all actually have a relic there of Thomas Becket, right? In that outdoor, I think y'all have an outdoor altar there, and inside it has a relic of Thomas Becket. It was pretty cool. The Maronite liturgy, from my observation, has been heavily Novus Ordoized. What can be done to revive its original liturgical customs? What do you think?
Nothing to do with it. All I can say is I know that it is heavily modern Latinized. It's been some years since I've gone because I was so taken back. So I don't know what would be done there. That's weird. It's odd. The Maronites, though, it doesn't surprise me after the fact, learning what I did. Maronites are much more like just comfortable being Roman Catholics, so it doesn't surprise me they kind of went along with that stuff.
Somebody says seeing Dr. Minard So Chill is my new favorite thing. Somebody
back to being like tedious, with the common sense book on Friday.
Grant Michael is saying, haven't heard the latter get to speak much either. I don't know if you've heard about this, right? But when I have my setup, I have a globe in there and a ladder on the library. Yeah. The ladder has received so much talk.
Well,
I don't know why, but people are fascinated with the globe or the ladder, and it comes up literally every stream. There was one show I was doing, and they were just going off on the ladder. And I'm doing a live show with some important guest. I forget who it was, but it was somebody important is all I remember. But fortunately, I had Eric or somebody else on who could kind of take the reins for a moment, because they were just going off on the ladder, talking about, making all kinds of jokes like Jacob's ladder and the ladder of ascent, and just coming up with every joke that they can about the ladder, to the point that I had to bust out laughing, but I couldn't do that while I'm on the stream. I couldn't hold it anymore. So I had to just fade the camera to black while they were still talking, and just walk away and die laughing and then come back.
I'm trying to remember. I'm thinking there was some Simpsons episode with a ladder, but no. Your ladder is odd because it's a bookshelf, so like, I go to the ceiling. At least I could use a ladder.
I don't use it. It's just for decoration. I can reach it.
I know. It's like my mother-in-law has this ladder in her room. I'm like, what's that ladder doing leaning on a window?
Everybody has talked about the ladder and the globe. Two things that I would have never thought.
Well, the globe, I did. I saw that. I was like, so did you go antiquing? And you're like, is this globe?
I don't get it. To me, it's decoration. I wouldn't give it a second thought.
See, though, I'm not going to go too far saying too much negative here, because there's a real undertone of like defensiveness about this globe and this ladder. It's like,
what is this from River Run? Is it Bussin? Janelle, is it Bussin? Well, thank you for the super chat, but I have no idea what that means. Do you know what that means?
I have no clue, and I'm sorry, I have no clue. But then also too, I'm so struck by the amount of ladder commentary that's going on.
Everybody, they say they're going to give you a GoFundMe to get you a ladder.
I mean, I have a nice schedule, it's working well.
They said they're going to get you a globe too.
Yeah,
the globe proves R&T is a worldwide phenomenon. There you go. We put a theological spin on it, or a typological spin. I don't know. We are staunch defenders of the globe and ladder. We will die for their freedom.
That's what I saw. I mean, there's some others around it.
The ladders right now are in the garage, leaning right next to the trash can bin. That's where they are right now. So they're still alive, but yeah, I mean, they're not in the best place right now.
We'll probably start moving.
Yeah. Let's see. Thank you for the super chat. Gave this money to Dr. Minard for a ladder, or I sue. Look, Dr. Minard, if you want a ladder, if you're serious about this,
I've been asking the ladder. I actually don't
Lobby.
want the ladder. I mean,
You don't want it. It's just no.
This works really well. I appreciate this. I mean, but like your ladder proselytization.
Yeah. Bring out the ladder based. We do a little funding. Y'all are killing me. All right, well, we'll go ahead and in the chill stream there, but I'd love to do another one sometime if you're up to it.
We'll do another. It'll be good.
Maybe we'll do a comedy hour too. That'd be fun.
So I find like it's like the equivalent. I see your comments. They're find out where I am, and there'll be a ladder here. I'll if I come in, it's like a horse head. I wake up one night and there's a like this is gonna freak me out.
Well, what did they say? It's an omen from the old country or something. What did they say about the horse head there in the
well, I always took that to be as somewhat like the evil eye kind of thing. We have, that's an aside, but before we go, it's like I have this weird relationship with American Italians because of growing up in the Northeast. It's so different than that deep South because it's just all kind of Americans Scots-Irish who ended up down in the bayou, or French people. The Italians were so snotty to all the various Slavs and Polacks in the area that to this day I have this kind of like knee-jerk anti-Italian thing. So I'm like, oh, it's a bunch of superstition. There's a whole section of the town where the Italians where I grew up, and it was just like, look at those Italian snobs on the hill. I don't know if you probably don't even have this feeling. I don't want to throw it. You can't though, because they get worked up. And I'm like, like, I don't know. I've got a weird anti-Italian thing.
No, foreign to me.
So yeah, I feel really strong about this. Even like sometimes I had a priest who said to me, he was American Italian, but confrere. He said, "Oh, all of our great philosophy." I'm like, "What are you talking about? It's all like pastiche secondary stuff. I mean, you're humanists, but like there were no really great philosophy. I mean, like what you can have. They'll trot out. Oh, who's the historicist guy? It'll come to me. It's like, go to my philosophy shelf. Hold on, in my old age, we can go to my philosophy shelf.
Let's see.
At the end. Let's hold on. Oh my goodness! What? I can see the binding in my mind's eye. I should have Vico.
Okay.
Vico.
River Run said it too.
Oh yeah, there you go. No, I gotta be careful though. I mean, but like I don't like. Yeah, everyone likes Italian food. That's fine, but like Italian Renaissance music is not big to me. That's that was something in the traditionalist world. It was not the only thing, but like I never have like the motets. I don't know what your aesthetic is. Like I just don't like. I mean, it's fine. I was listening to some Palestrina this morning, actually going to Divine Liturgy, but I generally just don't have I don't have an aesthetic tie to that.
Yeah, so, neither do I. Off fame. Casual Sunday shorts. 101 Caliber says. He spotted your Sunday shorts.
Yeah, that's your shorts. Yeah, it's hot. It's hot out. I mean, it's casual. It's casual, whatever, or conversation.
He just casually showed another 900 books. Yeah. Just go from one set to another.
Well, it's like I shouldn't because it goes to the rest of the house. I mean, I've got books in the other room too. It's whenever people, man, you can find books for cheap. People get rid of books, give it.
That's true.
They don't want it.
I've been the one giving them away in the past, and I regret that. I probably gave, I don't know, 700, 800 volumes away before, and I regret that. I should not have done that. That was when I converted to Catholicism. I gave a lot of my Protestant books away thinking I wouldn't need them.
Yeah.
Don't make that mistake. No.
It's some got rid of don't do that. More like 300, but yeah. I guess I'm a modernist for wearing shorts. Is that what this is, Ben Shapiro? I can sweat to death. How will I climb up the ladder if I sweat to death?
There you go. An apologetic for shorts. There you go.
It's all, as the kids say, I don't even know what it means. It's based on the latter.
It's based. Yeah, another term that I will never use.
It'll show. It shows that you're being an awkward older person.
Yeah, I would never use the term based. I'm not knocking anybody who does, but to me, I just feel like I've reached an age that I'm no longer allowed to use that term.
Yeah, you look like someone who's, wearing hair. You're wearing hair extensions, and it's not because your hair is falling out. You know what I mean?
And everybody now in the chat is saying based. But y'all can say it. Like I said, not knocking you for it, but I just feel I feel a little too old to use the term. I don't know. All right. Well, I enjoyed you coming on and doing this. Yeah, thank y'all for watching. I always enjoy the comments and the questions there in the chat. Thank y'all, by the way, for those super chats. Of course, if y'all haven't already, subscribe to the channel, and then also check us out, patreon.com/reason and theology. It's the link at the bottom, the scrolling marquee there at the bottom of your screen. Go ahead and join if you haven't already. You also get access to extra content too. So, all right, we'll do it again, Dr. Minor.
All right. See you on Friday.
See you then. Take care.
All right.
God bless.